Hey, this is Jason J. Lewis, Superman from Justice League Action, and you're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
You're strong.
I know.
Are you a sight for sore eyes?
It's nice to have someone who likes you for being you.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I am here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
And today we are discussing Nubia, Calvin Ellis, and Val Zod. And yes, we will be talking about that canceled Ta-Nehisi Coates' Superman movie, which, if you know who Ta-Nehisi Coates is, that is dodging a bullet right there. Trust me. Britt, Ta-Nehisi Coates is the Tom King of this type of writing.
I mean, I will have to read it myself, but if that's
Totally.
the case, I will take your word, but the premise of the movie, it would have been something revolutionary. So it's a 50-50 split.
True. Counterpoint. You can't. I think that even if it would have been revolutionary as an idea, which I doubt because Ta-Nehisi Coates, but the problem is you can't do that plot today because if you do someone with Kryptonian powers encountering racism, the general audience is not going to buy, okay, why doesn't he just show he's Superman? I guarantee you they can't do anything to him. So it's like, for the general audience, that's not going to be buyable by people.
It depends. And we will get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get this crazy train started. And oh boy, has this been a week. All right. Let's rock and roll. So we were talking about Nubia, Calvin Ellis, and Val Zod. Mostly Nubia and Calvin because they are the ones that got them. Well, here's the thing. Here's the funny thing about it. So the thing about Calvin is like, so he's been like in multiple series is because of the Justice League Incarnate, and like I think he was even in Justice League 75 pre-Dark Crisis. But Val Zod is the one that got the most character development because he was in the Earth 2 series from the New 52, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, wasn't he Tom Taylor's creation?
I think so because, yeah. So what happened is that in Earth 2, it was originally written by Robinson. And then when Robinson stopped writing, that was when it was just revealed that Brutal was Superman captured and brainwashed by Darkseid. And then I think Val came later.
I mean, honestly, that is such I don't know. You can do so many Superman being possessed evil and all of that. That is such a lame storyline. But in order to have, I guess, an additional Superman, I just wouldn't have went that route. It just seems very repetitive.
Yeah, exactly. It's because I think it's because they wanted to have like a Superman, but the sort of premise of this was Superman and Wonder Woman get and Batman get killed, so you can't have Superman. And with Clark being like Brutal, it would later be revealed. I mean, when Taylor came in, it would later be revealed that Brutal himself was just Bizarro, essentially. But then Superman was still alive because he was cloned, and then he just he sacrificed himself. So Superman still dies, but they do Val Zod. I think they did Val Zod because if they brought in like Clark, it would take away from also the fact that you had Kara in the series, new 52 Power Girl.
Yeah, and then it got really interesting the fact that Taylor put that Kara or Power Girl with Val Zod.
Oh yeah, interesting how that ends up. Whereas if future Tom Taylor is any indicator, he should have tried to put her with Donna. I'm just joking.
He would have.
Because remember, in that Earth 2 series, the daughter of Wonder Woman Fury is Donna Troy.
Which is interesting because the New 52 or Prime Earth or whatever you want to call it, the introduction of that Donna was going to be a possibility of Clark and Diana's daughter.
Yeah. Now let me be clear. When I say that, I want to make sure I'm very clear about this. When I say that, it doesn't mean that Diana slept with Steppenwolf. No, she had the kid. Steppenwolf stole her away and turned her into a villain. Much like I wish if we can't kill off Trinity, they could just do with that.
Did that happen, or did he I know that she was possessed at some point, but I thought it was implied it was
I'm
basically
I'm fairly certain he himself confirmed to someone that it wasn't he didn't R-word her or anything like that.
You sure? Because it was implied. I thought it was implied.
I could be wrong, but I remember I read that relatively recently. Well, in the omnibus is coming out, so I could probably check that out. But I'm fairly certain that it wasn't necessarily. But anyway, the point is, it's she's daughter of Wonder Woman. But anyway, on to this. So you also have Calvin Ellis, who was created. So the funny part is, part of the inspiration for this is because Obama made a joke at one point that he was rocketed to Earth from another planet. So when Grant Morrison was writing Multiversity, actually, no, it wasn't Multiversity. It was Final Crisis is when Calvin actually showed up as President Superman, as a matter of fact.
Right.
So that's when he showed up. And obviously we know and love Nubia, who's the current queen of the Amazons. And the thing about Nubia is they've done a lot to make her to make her because here's the thing, as I've said many times, Britt, it annoys me when they make a diverse character, but they just make him or her a carbon copy of the character they're supposed to be a more diverse version of. With Nubia, they very much do not, because Nubia is very different from Diana.
Right. She's been different from Diana since the beginning. It's just the fact that the fans and audience reduced her.
The other thing that I really like is, so it's kind of funny. So when people say that when people say that they should make Diana bi or gay or anything like that, I'm like, I got news for you. That's what DC uses Nubia for. Look at the Pride merch. I'm just saying, it's not me saying anything. It's just DC indicating that.
Yeah, it's true. I would say that for Diana, she is probably pan because she loves love and life. So she loves everyone. So I would put it in
people misinterpret that.
Well, that's just them.
Well, yeah, it's really stupid people. I just love. I want to say this again because it's utterly ridiculous to me when Greg Rucka says he's a spiritual lesbian. So I'm like, so you're a straight guy, is what you're telling me. Isn't that kind of what that means?
Very much so. He is a straight man with straight tendencies straight man tendencies, and he's just veiling his fantasies on that.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so let's move on with these great characters. So tell us about Nubia's origin.
All right, so Nubia debuted in Wonder Woman 204 in 1973. She was the earliest Black female superhero in DC. I think the very first female Black female character was Vixen.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
She's so Nubia is pretty much the second, but in terms of being on Wonder Woman's side, she's the first. Um, and it was a lack of black characters at that time. So I think the main ones were Vixen, John Stewart, and Nubia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she in the bronze she her origin is from the Bronze Age. So she was her long lost twin sister. The thing is that was very controversial though, but it was of the time where you have Diana with like the lighter quote unquote clay, and then you have Nubia with the quote unquote darker clay to be they are twin sisters, but
I don't know
what
how I feel
explains
about that. I gotta be honest.
yeah, is very weird, but to have that separation of the for the complexions. And then I said it's of the time, very, very controversial now to think about it. But I don't know, it's something. It's not like, how Lois did blackface. It's not that. It was just how to explain them as twin sisters. And of course, Hippolyta didn't, you know, naturally conceive them. So, in order to explain that, it was a complexion thing.
Yeah. So and yeah, and so if I remember correctly, she was also intended to be a character that attacks Diana if the cover is anything to go off of, right?
Yeah, so she was stolen by Ares. So she was
Oh,
raised
there you go.
yeah, she was raised in battle, trained by Ares. So that is why she became basically like an enemy of Diana. It was pretty much a miscommunication, if you will, because of course Ares being a manipulator and everything, thought to have, these two sisters go at it to see who's the strongest.
Yeah, exactly. So that was interesting. So then we get to so we have the modern versions of Nubia, which I largely enjoyed. I picked up a bunch of those like trades because I have uh, the Nubia and the Amazon like hardcover, which it shows a lot. Because here's the thing that I really liked about this era of Wonder Woman. Say what you will about it. It really expanded on the lore of the Amazons, how it works, how someone becomes an Amazon, and even like the different jobs that the Amazons have, like guarding Doom's doorway and stuff. So when people talk about like the Clune and Conrad era, because this was still part of the era, as like, nah, I'm like, no, you know what? I really like it when they really like expand because again, you know me, Britt, as a fan of Greek myth, I find that all this stuff fascinating. By the way, Phantom Zero says good take on Diana, loving everyone. That's true. Yeah, but people missing because here's the thing. When she basically is talking about loving everyone, Diana, she doesn't at least I don't think she means it the sexual way like people trying to like say she's pansexual. I'm like, I don't think she means it like that. By
I
that
mean,
logic,
you can
Superman is
go.
pansexual as well.
I mean, he's an alien, so you
Nope.
know.
Still, put it this way, Britt. If we're going off of post-crisis, which everyone does, Superman is what he can do. Clark Kent is who he is.
Oh no, we're not
I
going to
just
use that
made
as
Britt.
a
I
scapegoat.
just made Britt throw up in her mouth. I just want to be clear about
You
that.
did. We're not going to use that. What I'm saying is, um, okay. So there was someone on TikTok who said it basically, um, very plain and simple. It's hearts, not parts. So that is how Diana feels. She cares for people's hearts and she loves life and love. And as long as it's, good kind of love, not the toxic stuff that some fans, you
Yeah.
know, try to make it seem. No, she
Not
loves,
coming from a certain murderous cat lady.
right. She loves people who are genuine, who are trustworthy, who are just good people, good vibes. So yes, you can label Diana as pansexual, you can label her as bi, because that's what she is. But it just depends on the story and how you go about it.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. I've made my position clear about about the way DC considers it. So that's all I'll say about that. Right. Cameron says, not going to lie, I never knew Nubia appeared that early. I always thought it was a Reaver as 2010 or when the whole diversity thing started. No, she goes back to that long. It's just DC utilizing her in this way goes back to in like the 2010s, like, or even like 2020 or something like that, because that's what DC uses her as, because it's like it's like, again, I go back to like Pride merch, because again, this is what I always tell people when they say Diana's bi. If she would be on Pride merch or in the Pride books. Covers don't count because Superman's on the one for John, but actually in the books, who's in there, Britt?
Nubia, or
exactly,
and Philippus.
Well, let me put it this way: Hippolyta and Nubia, 100% confirmed. But my point is, it's like when it comes to Nubia and like Wonder Woman, I'm like, that's, let me put it this way: from a DC editorial perspective, obviously Nubia is more than just this. What I'm about to say, obviously, but according to like the way DC handles her, she's the gay Wonder Woman. Obviously, she is way more of a character than that. Obviously,
right.
But so then we get to Nubia. Tell me, Britt, your thoughts on the Nubia and the Amazon series.
All right, so you see how long it took for her to actually be spotlighted again, and it started in the New Frontier era of DC, when I guess they were trying to repackage 5G.
Yep. That's what Future State and then a little bit of Infinite Frontier was. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have DC reestablishing many legacy characters. Nubia is a part of that, legacy label, to update the mythology and everything like that. And it was a diversity thing because you also have the introduction of Yara.
Mm-hmm.
So Nubia and the Amazons, this is really to introduce Nubia's, establish her place among the Amazons and give her a fresh retelling of her origin. She is not a clay baby.
Mm-mm.
She's not Diana's twin sister anymore. But it is sort of referenced, though, when there is a moment. I don't know if it was in Nubia and the Amazons or Queen Nubia. I don't know which one it was in, but there is a moment where Nubia and Hippolyta have a one-on-one, and she kind of refers to her as her daughter a little bit. I guess that's implied to just, I guess, as a callback to that. But this new Nubia, she was protector of Doom's doors, and her origin is she was a reincarnated soul of a princess from Madagascar, I believe, and she was reborn from the Well of Souls.
I see. Yeah. That's where that like came from thing, because I remember in that period. I mean, at this point, that's when they were really expanding like what the Well of Souls actually does. NJ says disagree with the Pride issue because they didn't show Constantine or Catwoman on it. Yeah, but they have actually referenced them being LGBTQ in the comics as well. My point is that combined with the utter absence of that in the actual comics now, it tells you all you want to know. But anyway, how you doing, NJ? But yeah, I definitely, and as to my point, where they really expanded like what like a lot of like the Amazonian lore, because there's so much that's not discussed.
Well, when you have, your head writer being Tom King, that obviously he does not care for the Wonder lore. We're not going to get any type of expansion on the Amazons or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to Nubia, Queen of the Amazons.
Yeah, so just like Nubia and the Amazons, this is pretty much an extension of that, and this is the aftermath of um, Nubia becoming queen after they. Honestly, I do not like that they killed off Hippolyta. I
Yeah, to
just felt
turn her
like
into
that
a
part.
goddess. NJ hates that.
It just seemed like it was so contrived, and it's no purpose of Hippolyta, you know, being dead. It is really no purpose. Yeah, it is for Nubia to be queen, but it felt unearned. Just a little bit, um, especially when they didn't do much with that role of hers. She, we also get an introduction to Bia, which um, is the first transgender Amazon. She was um, obviously a man in her first life, but of course she felt as if she was a woman, so she was reincarnated into the woman that that her soul believed she was, which was a nice thing.
Even though, it's kind of funny. Again, when I read the series, that's never mentioned once.
Oh, who, Bia?
Yeah.
Well, in Tom King's, of course not, because he doesn't know anything.
No, I mean,
And
in this, it's not reference that she used to be a dude. What it says is, actually, you know what? I'll read it. Because I have that in the Nubia and the Amazons trade. Because it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, Bia's going to show up. And I was like, okay, how do they do this? Because I want to see if they explained it, because I believe what they do, actually, I think it should be in this one right here. It is Tales of the Amazons right here, I believe. Where is that? Because I'm pretty sure it was here. Yeah, actually it should be here. But it's like when I'm reading it. Okay, actually, no, it's in the picture. So it says here is, I don't know how to explain it yet, but this exact moment feels my soul has desired it long before I came here. The thing is, that doesn't so the only reason why people know that she is the trans Amazon is because someone said this is similar to trans stuff, and Vita Ayala, the writer, said that that's what it was.
I thought Stephanie wrote that.
No, I believe it was Vita Ayala. I think. Hang on, I'll check. But the point is, that's what that actually was. Or like that's the way they actually did that series.
Well, yeah, I guess as far as it to be.
By the way, it's Stephanie and Vita.
Yeah. For it to be approved, I guess for editorial, it had to be written in an ambiguous type way, and then they confirmed it themselves on socials.
Mm-hmm. Yep, which I'm like, okay, fine. But it's like I do find it hilarious that they're like, okay, make it general. Wait till a fan points it out, because a fan is going to point it out.
Right. So I mean, it's still nice though, because it shows, the Amazons are reincarnated souls of victims of violence, and in that sense of a transgender person, it even if you are a man and you feel in your soul and your spirit that you are a woman, it is an evolution for the Amazons to embrace, that that evolution of what it means to be an Amazon.
Mm-hmm. And NJ says they should bring her back ASAP. She's been sidelined and useless for 4 years. Oh, I think she means Hippolyta. They mean Hippolyta, which, yeah, we agree with that. But yeah, so and again, it's like I really it's one of those series is that it's like, hey, it wasn't the best written series, but you know what? I'm glad it exists, because again, yeah, to your point, Nubia doesn't get that much.
She doesn't, and even as the queen, she still doesn't. I mean, again, with Tom King as, head writer right now, we don't
Mhm.
even see, even with this Wonder War, we don't see any type of indication of Nubia, um, in a sense, communicating with Diana.
How
We
much you
don't.
want to bet he killed off the other Amazons just so he doesn't have to use them?
Well, yeah, and I mean, they were looking for a writer, for these two issues
Hmm.
in order. They already had, I guess, the premise
Hmm.
to have it be about the Amazons taking care of Trinity, which is still, I mean,
Hmm.
you're trying to force this, you know, um, you're trying to force her in, and it's just not working. So, of course, they got Stephanie because she deals with her, or her favorite is Nubia. She's dealt with the Amazon. She's writing um, the We Wonder, or in
Hmm.
Warriors, that title. So, yeah, she's perfect for that. However, it still felt like all of the Amazons and um and that whole thing was just a plot device, or just it was a plot contrivance for Trinity, but wasn't the establishment of the characters with Diana. And Diana, she is whatever at this point.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And more on that at the end of our reviews. Because yes, Britt, I included Wonder Woman 30 because I know you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Nubia's role in Amazonian Wonder lore.
So again, she was absent for decades, but she does have a meaningful role, which is to be that prominent black, you know, um, superheroine within the Wonder Lore.
Hmm.
Um, you do have Philippus, but she's more, she has her own role as the Guardian. Nubia can work within the same metric as Diana. Um, I mean, they even tried to put her on the Justice League a little bit. I guess that didn't really side well, too much, but it's still that she can work with the wider DCU.
Yeah, exactly. Well, remember that one really bad series they did called Nubia and the Justice League, where it's literally everyone practically wanking off to Nubia, including our good friend Dinah Lance going, "Yes, Queen," and
Yeah,
holding her face like that. I'm like, I remember reading that because I wanted to see what that would be like. I opened the book. I'm like, the hell is this?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of contrivances to make these characters work. When it's not, it doesn't have to be like that. It can be something very natural, and progressive if just write the characters normal.
Exactly. Just you don't have to have just have Nubia on the Justice League just hanging out and helping. Not like the entire Justice League bowing down before her.
Right. It's unnecessary. That was not needed, and I mean that's pretty much why her character is kind of falling back a little bit, because you did this grand push, but that's all it was, a grand push. It wasn't really developing her.
Yeah, exactly. So then we have the what's the thematic importance of Nubia's elevation?
So again, it's representation. She is the first, um, black female superhero within the Wonder Woman lore. Yes, her appearances were sporadic, but she still has that, symbolism. Even with her not having so much, um, so many appearances over the years, people still knew who she was, because of that 1973 cover and everything. She still resonated regardless. She does have narrative depth when you're able to truly explore the fact that she is a leader, she um she is the queen, and with her being a black woman and being the queen of the Amazons, it could be something um social and political and philosophical um with her, that complex storytelling, if DC gives that sort of storytelling chance.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. But by the way, Cameron asked a very important question. I don't mean to bash writers. Oh, come on, you can bash the certain writer we're talking about. I really don't know, but how is it that you are on a Wonder Woman run and yet you can't even utilize your sisters one bit? Because Tom King is not in, he'd rather utilize Steve Trevor.
yeah,
By the
he does
way,
not
the
care.
the only influence, the only effect that King is going to have on Wonder Woman, the only thing it's going to be remembered for is to be the run that made literally everyone hate Steve Trevor. The
Right,
fact that you had podcasts now saying Steve Trevor matters, stop hating on Steve Trevor, proves it ain't just the Wonder fans.
right.
So it's like you push a character too far, to that point, you wonder when people are going to go, "Oh, screw this."
Yeah.
Anyway, continue on, Britt.
I
Sorry.
love this cover that she kind of looks like Angela Bassett.
Yeah, I know, right? She does.
Even though I thought that, Hesha, if she was to be introduced in live action, Angela Bassett could play her too.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. I could definitely see that. But yeah, it is like the thematic. Because and here's the great part about Nubia. Because there are times when you have like characters that fulfill that or that representation thing, but they're surface level characters. With Nubia, she is never that. She is actually a very deep character when properly written, obviously. But it's good to see that some writers understand that no, just don't make her just a surface level black version of the. And yes, Debel writes that Nubia is still being used. She was even briefly, I mean this, briefly used in the Tom King Wonder Woman in issue 1. I think that was the only time we've ever seen Nubia in this run, right?
Nubia and Philippus, yeah.
And Artemis, as a matter of fact. Artemis was in that. But
Right.
that's a character we should do a comparison with at one point, Artemis. But anyway, but it's like the thing is, you actually have to have writers that know her lore, or really, here's the difference. You have to have writers that care. Because writers like Tom King can say, oh, I love the Perez run and everything like that. It's one of the influences. Yeah, but if you're constantly undermining or changing what made it so unique, I'm sorry, I don't want to hear it. I know you're lying at that point.
Yeah, none of this is an homage or whatever to Perez.
No,
This,
if anything, it's using the Perez run as toilet paper. Tell me I'm wrong, Britt.
no, no.
Thank you. So then we get, and it is kind of cool how they made her the queen of the Amazons, which is something that I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually really cool, and it's a role she's totally qualified for. So it's like it's again, I like where they have, like in recent years, actually been doing something with her as opposed to just allowing her to just wallow.
I, you know, I have no idea who is going to be the next writer, but honestly, I just hope that whatever they do, they make this a bad nightmare or something. Lock, I don't
That
mind
would
if
be
they lock her.
hilarious.
They need to lock her back up in the institute or something, because this honestly just needs to be something of an illusion.
Yeah, my way of undoing this, I'll go into this more, is so we use Strife and we can basically use it that like or like Cersei, and like say that like Trinity's creation was all under Strife and Cersei's influence, but it's just like I definitely agree because here's the good part, Britt. If somehow we get lucky and DC completely undoes Trinity, or King leaves and Trinity does not exist anymore, then we can treat the run as it was a bad nightmare. Because it's like, when you think about it, besides Steve Trevor being dead, which that probably will get undone, it's like, it's like, what changed?
I mean, honestly, yeah. And even with the undoing of his death, it's only because I feel like, you know, it's only because Tom King is going to leave the run soon with all his Hollywood stuff that he's trying to, rush Steve coming back. So it can basically be that the next writer, either they can kill him off again, or they
That'd be
have
hilarious.
to,
They just kill him off again.
they could, or they have to,
My version of
um,
doing this, Brit, would, by the way, be the bringing back was an illusion, or like it was a construct by Cersei to weaken Diana.
even that is giving him too much clout, though.
Well,
Giving Steve
yeah.
too much clout.
Yeah, that's true. So my theory on that, Brit, because isn't it kind of interesting that in the Trinity series, yes, I had to read it for this show, as a matter of fact, so thanks. So where Steve says if he doesn't die, Trinity isn't born, it would be very interesting if so the series ends with the Wonder War ends with time travel. I still think it's going to end with time travel because all the stuff that's talked about so far in the future. So Trinity goes back to either getting rid of the Sovereign, or she just stops Steve from dying, which would undo Trinity's existence.
I mean, either way is a lose-lose because yes, she can't exist if he, comes back to life, but then he has to come back to life for her to leave. So,
I realize that, but here's the thing, Britt. If they just go back and undo Steve's death, then literally all the Mouse Man stuff didn't happen. Everything else didn't. The only things that will probably have happened is up to issue 19, which I know is bad, but still you can explain that. But realistically, if they get rid of Trinity, they can just pretend this this run does not exist. And Babel, yeah, I'm saying it'll still have happened, but if no one references it, and then if DC reboots again, it won't be canon. And it's not that this was giving James Gunn ideas. They're not going to use the King run for the Wonder Woman movie. I guarantee that much. I am practically certain of. What do you think, Britt?
oh, definitely not. I mean, why would they?
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to Earth 23, Superman and Wonder Woman. So again, this was in Final Crisis and then expanded in Multiversity, where one of the defining factors of this Earth is that the races of a lot of prominent characters are changed. Like Superman and Wonder Woman are black. Nubia is the Wonder Woman of Earth 23. Calvin Ellis is the Superman of this Earth, and he's also the president of the United States. So I felt that was interesting. And he is based off of, well, at least the idea is based off of Obama. So interesting.
Yes, very interesting. And of course, Earth 23, Nubia is based off of Beyonce too.
Well,
So,
I see why you like this version.
of course. So, yeah, this is very interesting, and this is the only time I will give Morrison a point. Um, it's, I mean, if you are going to have these prominent characters, um, utilize them. DC has a multiverse. There's a lot of, story that could be told with these versions of the characters. Yeah, you do have the president, Superman as president. Then you have a black president, and by his side, you do have Wonder Woman. Nubia, if you are to have her even, that um, role to be the queen of the Amazons, that could bleed into Earth 23 as well. So yeah, it's a lot of story there. I just don't understand why DC doesn't utilize it.
Yeah, exactly. In my mind, Britt, here's a great series that they could do. And it's about Earth 23, but it's also about it more. What they could do is do a monthly series, an anthology series, where each month they tell a story from one of the Earths. It could be Earth 23, it could be Earth 2, Earth. I think they should avoid Earth Prime because all the other stories are that. But they could do Earth 3. Just go through each and every Earth. Really explore the possibilities you could have with the multiverse. Kind of like how Tales of the Dark Multiverse was like the evil version of it. Essentially, turn multiversity into an ongoing series.
Exactly, exactly. You have Earth 23, which is, Calvin and Nubia. You can have Earth 2, or, whichever Earth, Valzad. You can have Kingdom Come Earth. You can have Frank Miller Earth, um, Dark Knight of Steel, whichever Earth, you know, just have an anthology book that let us see glimpses of those different Earths.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, because again, it's like, well, here's the thing, and then Cameron says, honestly, the fact that DC created the multiverse, it's weird how they never utilize it. Well, yeah, it's not like one of the most popular initiatives done by DC is predicated on one of the Earths in the multiverse.
Right.
I'm just saying, it's absolutely insane, right?
What's silly is that they are also celebrating the 40th anniversary of Dark Knight Return. And
Huh.
it's like, okay, so is there a sequel to Golden Child? Is there, anything like that other than reprints? You don't have like another story to give glimpses of the characters or anything. You're not doing much at all with these um, iterations of the characters. We need more. Yes, Absolute is doing what it's doing, but that feels like it's a total different thing, and it's still connected in a way to Prime Earth.
Exactly.
And Prime Earth is just void of any type of creativity. They're trying, but it's so dull. So yeah, you need a different Earth. You need more to get people interested in just the wider part of DC. And yeah, they have a multiverse. They created it, but they need to utilize it.
Exactly. So then we get to multiverse with Calvin Ellis, and the cool thing about Calvin, not only is he like the president of the United States, man, this guy really can multitask, but he's also the leader of the Justice Incarnate, which is a group of superheroes from all across the multiverse, where their whole job is to patrol the multiverse and look out for threats that are going to end all reality.
Which is pretty interesting. And you also have Hyperman, you have Hyper Time too.
Mm-hmm.
So even Kingdom Come Jonathan can be a part of this.
Yeah, exactly. Because hyper time is a form of the multiverse. Well, hyper time was created. You know why hyper time became a thing, Britt?
No.
Because at the time, remember, Crisis on Infinite Earths had just happened, and one of the effects of Crisis was the multiverse is wiped out. But DC still wanted to do Elseworld stories, so they're like, "Oh, it's another timeline."
Ah, I see. Mm-hmm.
That's the whole reason. And Dable says because the multiverse has always been about what ifs and fan service. Yeah, but they never really use it that much. So it's like there's so much that you can do. I mean, look, the absolute universe. Say what you want to say about it. Is the example of what happens when you actually use the multiverse.
True.
look at what happens. By speaking of the multiverse, I want to show this off real quick. I finally got an Absolute Wonder Woman T-shirt.
Oh, nice.
I figured that would be appropriate for this week's episode of the multiverse. But anyway, so that's the thing. So not only is like Calvin like the leader of the free world, in many ways he's the leader of the entire multiverse.
Exactly.
That's the really. I'm like, well, bro, you got two. Somehow you're the president of all of reality in addition to just America. And wow, good luck trying to get all the realities to do stuff together. Anyway, I had to. Anyway, so then we get to Val-Zod. So here's the other thing. So again, backstory. So with the New 52, when that happened, they had gotten rid of a side effect is that the Justice Society didn't exist, but DC still wanted to like do stories about them. So harkening back to what happened with the Golden Age characters when like Barry Allen came back and when Barry Allen became the Flash and Hal Jordan became Green Lantern, DC in the New 52 time decided, let's have an Earth 2 book where it's basically about the younger versions of those characters like Alan Scott, Jay Garrick. This is where it was established, Britt, that Alan Scott was gay.
Yes, right.
It was in this series. By the way, so fun fact about this. So the first story is Steppenwolf invading Earth 2. So do you know what was happening at the exact same time as that?
No.
At the exact same time as Steppenwolf is invading Earth 2, Justice League Origin and Darkseid's invasion of Earth Prime is happening. So at the exact same time. So I've always felt that was kind of interesting. But with this, so Batman sacrificed himself to take down a Parademon tower. Wonder Woman gets the worst death of all. She's fighting, and the Steppenwolf just walks up behind her and stabs her through the back. And I'm like, what? Anyway, Superman, we think is killed, but he's actually captive. And they take him in, clone him, and then create Brutal, who's essentially like evil Superman. It's also homaging like Superman Darkseid and
Injustice.
Yeah, well, and I think actually that was before the Injustice, or at least the Injustice comics came out, I believe. Anyway, so he's captive, and then this was also when this is also a time when they gave Lois powers. Remember when they downloaded her consciousness into Red Tornado? I know, right? And then, so at this point, around the time that like Batman died, that's when Supergirl from Earth 2 and Helena Wayne, Robin show up in the main Earth because they go through a portal, and then that's where like New 52 Huntress and Power Girl are, and then they eventually leave and go back to their Earth. But at this point, they discovered another Kryptonian who was Val-Zod. Now, what's kind of interesting about this one, Zod apparently in this Earth is not a bad guy. He's like a fellow scientist, and he's like he was basically among those that taught his son compassion and stuff. But when Val crash landed on Earth and was captured by the government, much like Flashpoint, he was like agoraphobic and was scared to show up and be a hero. But then with the help of Earth's heroes, he eventually grew to become Superman. And by the way, I must say, I like the blue, white, and red costume, I think. And that looks very snazzy.
Yeah, it does. And he's also drawn to look like Michael B. Jordan.
And everyone's like, hey, why don't you play this Superman? I'm like, yes.
Well, actually, that is something that goes into our discussion of the Superman movie. Jordan was interested in the movie, and he wanted to take, kind of like creative control of it. And he actually did want to play the role and have um, the character be Valzad.
Yeah, because from what I remember is like the Ta-Nehisi Coates movie got announced, and I'll get into that later. Most of the content creators, including the black content creators that I heard of, did not want it because they're like, why are you doing a black Clark Kent when you could just do the same story with Val Zod or Calvin Ellis and actually highlight those characters? But
Or even
anyway,
Icon.
or even Icon, that's true. But anyway, but at the same time, Calvin Ellis, that's a Freudian slip. Michael B. Jordan was trying to do his own Superman movie that would have been, I think he wanted to do Calvin, because I remember Oprah had asked him, hey, have you ever considered playing Superman? And he goes, well, I don't think it's right to race Ben Clark, so you know what, I'll just play, I'll be Calvin Ellis. And when I'm thinking about it, if you want to like really uplift like African Americans for like Superman, why not use the one that's the president of the United States?
Exactly.
I'm like, well, it just seems it's lazy to just say we're just gonna make him Clark Kent in the 60s, the civil rights era, which I'm like, I get what that on paper it sounds like a good idea, but trust me, Ta-Nehisi Coates is not the guy to do it.
Yeah, it depends on the writer who will, determine the execution of that But it, like you said, it does sound good on paper, and it would be good in, actual practice. It's just the writer, can you trust someone with that sort of to make the right creative decisions?
Well, and remember, Ta-Nehisi Coates is the guy that said he couldn't see. It basically said he considered the 9/11 first responders to be subhuman.
I just don't understand it.
He said this a day after 9/11, Britt.
Oh, jeez.
Do you see why I have little respect for this individual?
Hmm.
And this is the guy that Marvel said, why did you write Captain America?
Some of these creatives, I don't know, they have, I wonder what's in their minds, because some of the things that they say about, actual world events and, just things like that, that's actually in reality. They are so out of touch.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And this guy's an essayist. Anyway, so then you get to Justice League Infinity, which was a comic continuation of the DCAU, and it written by J.M. DeMatteis and James Tucker. And what's interesting about this, they take it a step further, Britt. Isn't it kind of funny that the creative, and I'm talking about Tucker, who not only at this point has destroyed SuperWonder in the DCAMU, but also laughed at it when they were talking about it on a panel, goes, okay, so Calvin Ellis, I'm going to say Calvin Ellis because it's that Superman, and Nubia, let's have them get married on this earth. Something doesn't add up.
Right, I think she has another name.
Yeah, but for ease of discussion, I'm calling it that.
Right. Another thing about Earth 2 was, or the Earth 2 book, the only thing that I paid attention to was with, when the New 52 Batman and Superman, time traveled or whatever to Earth 2 and was able to see the moment where Earth 2 Trinity died. And when Diana got stabbed, Prime Earth or New 52 Superman had said, he watched as his love or my love died. I was like, that's really cute. That even
I really hope that's included in the omnibus because I want that.
Yeah, it's I will find it. I know that I think I posted the panel or somewhere.
Oh, okay. By the way, Nubia's name is Unati.
Yes.
Interesting.
But yeah, I will look for that panel and send it to you.
That is so. That's like in the Supergirl series. Actually, it was in the Superman series, but it was included in the Hell on Earth event where I think it was Lobdell had but basically it was Superman and Wonder Woman, and then he goes, he wants to take her in his arms and tell her about his day, and then he goes, she wants to provide comfort to him, but they know they have to keep track of time, and I go, I miss the New 52 so much.
Right. Even though I don't cut for LaBelle, but some of the dialogue or the monologuing, whatever, was okay.
Yeah. But Britt, going back to this, how ironic is it again that the crew that was so against it, that inspired our cheerleader episode, is put an alternate Superman and Wonder Woman together? Isn't that funny?
It's funny, but he's still a hater because
Yeah.
he had, Clark and Diana, the prime DCAU version, basically like look at them in disgust in a way to
Yeah.
say, they're married but it's kind of like, okay, DCAU Diana, Batman don't even want you to even think about marriage or whatever, and
Never will, according to actual canon, so
right.
screw you.
So, and it really came off in this sort of still this xenophobic racist type way because you have the iterations that are kind of like, white looking in disgust of the black version
Oh,
that they're
yeah.
married.
That doesn't look. Oh, Britt, this gets worse. This is also the series where, in an alternate universe, Wonder Woman marries frickin' Darkseid.
Exactly. So it's kind of like,
Mm.
you're not doing this well at all, and honestly, you're to show that this iteration though of Superman and Wonder Woman, they are um these diverse versions and how they do love each other. And yeah, Superman and Wonder Woman, regardless of if they're hating, they have this natural connection to where you can't help but to marry them off or have them and have this romantic connection.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, Dave will ask, did you guys see the Batman and Wonder Woman forum when this book came out? Man, the meltdown was hilarious. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. Honestly, it makes me hilarious. It really is funny when the Wonder Bat people have such superficial understanding of both characters that they will take anything, but then they'll like freak out if nothing invalidates their ship. It's like with Britt and I, and with the majority of Super Wonder fans, we just want to be left alone and just say, okay, it's fine. I mean, we like Superman and Wonder Woman. We're not going to force on other people. But other ships like Clois and Wonder Bat, or to a certain degree, Wonder Cheetah, are like, no, you have to like this or you're horrible. Isn't that funny, Britt?
It's funny and deranged.
In a like ironic way. You know what I mean by when I say funny.
Yeah,
But
I know.
but the one thing I will give this series, I am so glad they didn't. They really didn't do. Well, actually, you know what they did? Kind of do the Wonder Bat thing where Batman like helps her, like takes her hand, and I'm like, you guys can't help it. No wonder. Remember when every video I've done of DCAU Wonder Woman, I've like ranked her as the worst animated Wonder Woman. So there you go. Now, Britt, what is the thematic threads that you see among all these different versions of Superman and Wonder Woman?
Okay, of course it is it's the meaning of identity, legacy, and heroism. Nubia, whether it's Prime Earth or Earth 23 or DCAMU or DCAU version, she still has this cultural and royal authority, and she does still represents the positiveness of a black woman, and that inspiration. Calvin he isn't just a hero, he is a leader. And to be the president, to have that inspiration of a black president, again, it's such this cultural resonance, and to really just inspire kids um, who felt like the um, the Marston quote, from for Wonder Woman. It was about like girls needing something, or a character, that they could see themselves in, and that you don't have to be afraid to be who you are. So with these characters, it's the same way that as a black child, or any, um, person of color, you can see yourself within these characters, and they can inspire you to be a better you. You know, Even though we always say that Clark and Diana are supposed to be that as well, that there is no limit of race, ethnicity, age, orientation, or anything like that, it's still even more so exemplified this with Nevia and Calvin of Valzad, and especially when they are paired together, to see that connection, that Super Wonder as a whole is about diversity. It's about embracing culture, and just being who you are.
Yeah, exactly. So then now let's talk about that Ta-Nehisi Coates' Superman movie, because here's the thing. So first off, the funny part about this, Britt, is that not only that, J.J. Abrams was ridiculously shady, because he made this deal with Warner Brothers, this exclusive deal, to make a bunch of content for them. And then he didn't produce anything for Warner Brothers, and then made content for other studios. So it's like, first off, you got that. And then what you have is, by the way, real quick, Dable asked, did you guys ever explore why the Batman and Wonder Woman Rebirth push never worked? I find it fascinating that DC tried this twice, once in the 2000, again in 2016. Both times went nowhere. Well, with the Wonder Woman part, it was because she was with Steve Trevor at the time, and they were trying to push that for the movie synergy. And the other one is because Tom King what was determined to set up a Bat wedding just so we can ruin it. But there is that. But I mean, we could explore why Wonder Bat's a bad idea for an episode, if that's okay with Britt at one point.
Maybe.
But anyway. So that's the thing about J.J. Abrams is, like, he promised to do all this stuff. He never fulfilled any of it. That's what was revealed when Zaslav bought like Warner Brothers. He was like, yeah, they promised they were gonna make stuff, but they never did anything with it. So then you get this announcement, which I'll never forget. So first off, Ta-Nehisi Coates is the biggest D-bag to ever be associated with superheroes ever. Granted, he had an interesting Black Panther run. He was the one that married Black Panther and Storm, Britt, because we talked about him in the Black Panther run. But so Marvel put him on Captain America, and he uses it to just crap on who Captain America is. So I'm like, what? So then he never wrote comic books for DC, thank God. But he was supposed to write this, and when you have someone whose whole life is bashing like even the good parts of America, and again, I say this all the time, making derogatory statements toward even the good law enforcement and emergency responders, especially after 9/11, and then add on to that, it was going to be a race-bend Clark Kent, which, again, like Britt and I've said, on paper makes sense, but in a world where Valzad and Calvin don't get the attention they deserve, he could have the same effect. Now, Britt, imagine this. Here's the way they could have done it. Instead of doing a race-bend Clark, the guy is Calvin, and then he does experience the racism and stuff of the 60s and civil rights America, obviously. But imagine it near the end of the movie, he becomes the president of the United States. He overcomes all that stuff to become the president because he saves the world from a crisis. And then the fact that he was the hero that saved the world overcomes racism. Granted, that's a little tone deaf to like actual racism that like exists, but still, it's like it would be more inspirational than just race bending Clark, I think. What do you think?
So it's very complex. Okay, so with Clark Kent, it is, I think what they were trying to do is have him as a reporter too, maybe, in that he he uses his voice, as Superman. Let's see, kind of like Superman smashed the Klan, I guess, you know, um, but have it where, yeah, he's using his voice or using the press, I would say, um, to, I guess, help with the civil rights movement. Um, and that would be an angle that you could go in. And, um, but being president, let's see, within that, it would have to be, it wouldn't be the civil rights, um, set in that time though,
Oh yeah,
to be
absolutely.
president. It would have to be that he is a reporter, and I guess they will go with that angle. The However, it is still difficult to see, I guess, how the powers would be utilized, because you did bring up a question or of why can't he just, use the powers and fight against, whatever. But that's not, obviously, that's not what we want. We don't
Yeah.
want him to use the powers in a way to show authority in that sense. It's more so him, like if he takes down uh, as, like I said, in Superman Smash the Klan, he's fighting against Klansmen or something like that. And he wouldn't have the powers that we know him to have now. He would probably have the Golden Age power set as well, so he's not as powerful too to offset that. Um, so yeah, the
Do
story
we know
angle.
he wouldn't have that like power set? Because the way it was represented to me was like it would have been just fully powered Superman.
Well, for me, okay, so if it was, now that you're already wrong, because why would you have him fully powered? It That wouldn't truly resonate because again, you are trying to have him in that moment, to really have that emotional um resonance. So I wouldn't have him as powerful. He would have the golden age power set, to, I guess, for him to actually feel the struggle as well. Um and again, it's more so his power within his emotional and intellectual, you know, um, point of view. It's not the physical part.
Yeah, yeah, I can give you that, but it's like again, it's the problem with it. It's like I I understand it. It's like but the issue is it's very surface level. I at least I think to do that, particularly when this was at a time period when people when the general audience does not want to be constantly bashed over the head with like politics and stuff in their media, which I understand and I don't want that either. Now, there can be stuff that has political undertones for sure, but I really feel like this at this time period would have been like another thing, particularly if it's written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, who is a veiled racist against white people. I don't think this. I think that this movie written by him would have done a lot more harm than good.
I think if you had like Ryan Coogler,
Coogler writing it, that's something that I would actually want to see.
I think that you would definitely get a little bit more of a Sinners type vibe with this, which would definitely hit way more.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would have been a lot more enjoyable. But anyway, so then we get to but anyway, it's like with this movie, it's like the other thing I saw that was hilarious is like even at least the African American content creators that I was watching were like, why are you race? Because here's the thing, Britt. At this point, because again, rightly so, people want representation and to be able to like see themselves in these characters. 100% of support that. And from what I saw, the problem is, in my mind, if you race bend characters, that is in and of itself racism because what you're saying is a the already existing characters aren't good enough, and b we're giving you the sloppy seconds. So in and of itself, race bending is in and of itself racist.
Right. So the reason why they were going to race Ben Clark Kent instead of using Val or Calvin was for marketing purposes only, which
Ah,
is still kind of like very narrow-minded because again, Calvin and Valzad are actually known just as Nubia is known. So it's like, no, you could have marketed to have a black Superman already is marketable.
yeah,
Um,
but here's the thing, Britt. You could have just called it Superman. People will still show up.
exactly. So, and especially with Michael B. Jordan
Mhm.
at the helm too, it would have sold already,
And let
you
me
know?
tell you this. With Michael B. Jordan, I trust it because the man is a fan of the man is a geek. So if there's one person that I think would be able to show these characters with respect, it's Michael B. Jordan for sure.
Right. So you definitely would have had that, you know, the backing of the general audience. You didn't have to worry about that. But WB being WB, they just don't, they make the worst decisions.
Remember, Britt, this was the crowd that screwed over Zack Snyder. That's the group of executives that we were talking about. The ones that exploited his daughter's ending of her own life in order to fire him.
Right.
That's
So,
the level of stupid people this is. But then we get to the discussion here about the woke label because I definitely want to have that conversation because here's the thing. I agree with what your point here is that woke started off as a good term, but then like got muddled to hell as the internet does in all terms. The thing is, under coats, that's the occasion where I'm like, yeah, you can use woke.
yeah, but I still don't like it
Yeah.
because the term, first of all, is still wrong because it
Yeah.
is a black term.
Mhm.
So whether
And
you
by the
say
way,
too woke,
I did not know that originally. I'm like, oh, okay, that's
yeah,
cool.
so if you say too woke, you're basically saying too black. So you're still wrong either way with using it. Um, just because the internet has screwed it up doesn't mean the original intent of it is, it's just crossing a fine line, you know.
I agree.
So with the two wokeness of it, yeah, that was totally racist and wrong because you're saying basically still saying it's too black. But
Mhm.
what woke really meant was it was awareness um of black culture. It was being aware of society and of the injustice of political upheavals and stuff like that. Just being aware of everything going on in the community. That's what that meant, you know. But yeah, the internet has, as they always do, they take words and they turn it into something negative and derogatory, and that's why, so many people don't take anything serious anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's basically yeah. In terms of like the way I think the executives meant woke when they called it woke, is that it's way too politically charged to do right now. And again, under Coates, again, any other writer, I would be like, maybe that's a little extreme, but this guy, again,
Right.
the Tom King of Captain America writers.
Right. It all depends on the writer. If it
Yeah,
the premise itself, you know, it is right.
it could be
Regardless,
very interesting of a premise.
yeah, it is right. It is the story that can be told and should be told. And it's something very unique. But as you said, it is the writer, which you can change writers. And it is the fact that you went with Clark instead of Calvin and Valzad. If you change those bits, then yes, this movie should have been. But if you just look for those easy routes, especially with something like this, yeah, it would end up blowing up in your face. It would.
Speaking of blowing up in their faces, well, one of the things I was wondering is, okay, so if it's a black Clark Kent, does that mean they race Ben Lois, or is she white?
I would have thought she was probably gonna stay white, and that would have been something
That would have been so much worse.
that would have been something worse too. Yes.
Oh my god, that would have been so horrible.
Yes, that would have been horrible
Speaking
too.
of white savior, am I right?
Yes, that would have been horrible because there is a meme where um it is black Superman carrying white Lois, and it is, a very racial meme. So yeah, no.
Exactly. All right, before we move on, I wanted to bring up one thing. I recently learned about. So remember when we covered that? Actually, it was last year for Black History Month. Remember when we covered Trill League and I was laughing my ass off?
Yes.
You know what happened with that? So
What?
it was like picked. It was like the rights were purchased by BET, but apparently,
Yeah.
according to the writer, they didn't greenlight it.
I was looking at that, and honestly, that is so like
The book is gold.
what
Why
is
would you do that?
okay, so with BET, what happened BET Plus, I think that they have had leadership change over
Okay.
there. So, the content that they have is a little slow. I have BET Plus. And yeah, the content is very exclusive to the creators that they want to work with, you know. But that is something that should have been on the network for sure.
That
But
would have
yeah,
been hilarious. Britt, you want to talk about stuff we review every week? Britt and I would have reviewed every single episode.
exactly. So
For
yeah,
those that don't know, refer to last year's like Black History Month episode where Britt and I talked about Trill League and she explained the plot of it. And if you should have seen me laughing my ass off in a good way of how on the nose this is, but in the best way.
yes, it is. It is.
Oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing. Honestly, I probably am gonna start ordering those books. We need to review that on the show, Britt, because that would be hilarious.
Oh my God, that would be. I don't know. That would be hilarious. Reviewing the actual book on the show. That would be funny.
And maybe we can get the actual creator on the show for an interview because I would so pay to have him on the show. Anyway, so then why some fans criticize the approach? Again, it's because it cheapens the hey, let me ask you this, Britt. So how does it feel from someone from your perspective if, like, instead of giving you the pre-existing characters, a studio just like Ray Spence Clark or Diana or something like that, instead of giving you pre-existing characters that are like in concept but like actual developed characters.
Right. Okay. So, funnily enough, you have where Twitter is going, you know, basically, I don't know, turning cartwheels or whatever,
Hmm.
with n- not wanting Diana to be portrayed by a woman of color.
Oh, I saw that.
And
You know what's kind of funny? Whenever I see Britt in debates with people, I'm like, well, good luck whoever's debating Britt.
the thing is, Diana is obviously a multicultural woman. You
Hmm.
know, yes,
She's from the Mediterranean. Hello.
right. Yes, from, a visual perspective and over the decades, of DC publication, she has been portrayed in comics and stuff as a white woman. However, Perez specifically made it known that she is a tan woman. She does have a darker complexion. She
Hmm.
does have an accent. Her hair, her everything about her is not of a white woman. She is a woman of color in some type of
Part
way.
of that, part of the pushback, Britt, I think, is from the fans that are fans of the DCAU when she was played by Susan Eisenberg, who obviously does not
Exactly.
have an accent.
But then you have DCAMU where she was um, Rosario Dawson.
Hmm.
So, you have just
and
because
and
of
slightly darker in complexion. It wasn't like I think the most spot on obviously we got was the Tomorrowverse for a lot of reasons because she definitely was like a little bit of darker complexion, but I feel like DCAU was like a little bit down the line for that.
exactly. Um, and even superhero girls,
Yeah,
she had an accent and she had a darker complexion.
thank you,
Um,
Gal Gadot.
so, you know, Diana is supposed to have that. Um, and even New 52, she had a darker complexion. You had Zeus, even if whether you care for the Zeus or not, you did have Zeus with dreads. In
Which
Rebirth,
was the coolest design for Zeus I have ever seen.
he, if anything, and being a stereotype, Zeus was definitely a light skinned man. He was. He was a light skinned black man. And you also have Apollo with cornrows, braids. So he was black. Um, so yeah, these different interpretations
Could you count Strife?
Strife, yes, she does. She gave a little bit of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was wondering. I was like, Strive kind of gave off that vibe, I think.
So, in a sense, and it was definitely in Justice League Rebirth where we saw a younger Zeus and he was black. So, yeah, in a way, New 52 Diana was half black.
Isn't that funny? Interesting how
Um,
that works out, huh?
in some type of way, whether that was the intention, it wasn't outright stated, but with the visual that was given with Zeus and Apollo and somewhat of Strife, you know, they were with that sort of ethnicity. But yeah, you have Diana. She's very ambiguous to her complexion and everything like that within this modern time. And she's supposed to because she is a clay-born baby. She is not just of natural, well, she is natural born, but she's a woman of clay. She's a woman of literal earth. She was sculpted. So you can have any, woman portray her. It does not matter. But um, even with Clark. In the Krypton show, um,
Oh yeah.
his grandfather actually was supposed to be black. Um,
Mhm.
but Jeff John, for some reason, he didn't want that to happen.
I,
But
I I think it was more of the general audience won't buy it, which I'm like, I
they're
get it.
Kryptonians and aliens. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I was about to say, I'm like, I understand from a surface level, but they're on another planet.
exactly. So it does not matter. It honestly, that was very much racially
Well,
motivated.
here's the thing. Also, that was by the time the show came out, it wasn't a prequel to Man of Steel anymore. What difference
Exactly.
does it make? You could say the Superman in this Earth is black.
Right. But you had what was worse though
Oh
was
boy.
the fact that he had, Zod's or Zod, I guess, in the Krypton show, black and he was evil. So it was kind of like, oh, so that's what you're trying to say.
And Zod's grandmother is evil. The other thing that was kind of stupid of him to say, and this is what got him called racist a while back. So he had apparently so someone on the show, I think it was one of the actresses, was wearing her hair differently for a scene, but he wanted them to wear the hair consistently. I'm trying to remember. I remember the exact details, but basically, this person said that black women wear their hair differently every day. Then Jeff, for some reason, he felt qualified to comment on this because he's married to a black woman. Was like, that's not true.
Yeah,
I'm
that
like, bro, bro, if ever there was a
you
time to not say anything, now is that time.
yes, especially not on a black woman's hair. You do that
To a
very
black
much.
woman, mind you.
Yes, you're very much crossing the line. Very much. I mean, you are going to get drop kicked, kicked in the throat. Um, yeah, you just run if you ever say something about a black woman's
Yeah.
hair.
Oh yeah. That's the occasion to turn around and make like the freaking Flash.
So,
But the point is, that's why he was called racist back in the day. But yeah,
right,
it's like it's aliens who care. Honestly, it's like who cares? It's aliens. You could say that like that like skin. Even if you say that, you could have just explained it like a DVD thing, or like somehow like explain it that like, oh, skin color doesn't necessarily transfer through the genes with Kryptonians if you're really that concerned about it. But it's
yeah.
like reject because that borders on rejecting someone for a role because of their skin color, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't sit right.
And it was also that he really, I think it was Jeff Johns, but even with having the kinks that they couldn't be black or any other um ethnicity besides white. And it was kind of like, why? Because they are Clark's, adoptive parents. They aren't his blood parents. And either way,
Well,
he is
on
an
that, it's like, well, yeah, but how many like African American people live in that area of Kansas?
I have no idea, but either way, it's fiction. So you can have
Either
as
way,
many
yeah, exactly. It's like it's fiction. This isn't the real world,
exactly.
and just
So
just don't, yeah, just don't, right?
right, you can have as many black people as you want in Kansas because it is fiction. Um,
Well,
or
the other thing, Britt, is like if this is like for the James Gunn Superman movie, would you really want those Kens played by black people? Because he
oh,
gets
definitely not.
he gets heat enough in that movie for making the Kens sound like yokels. It would be worse if they were black.
Right. Let me see. I think it was actually for the Superman and Lois show.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. But it's like the Kens aren't in that movie that much anyway, so it's like, I mean, in
Right.
the show, so it's like, what difference does it make?
Exactly.
Like you're getting that. not you, obviously, Britt, but I'm talking to like the WB. You're getting too obsessed about minor details.
Exactly.
It's just like, guys, I'm pretty sure we could be prioritizing better stuff right now. But anyway, the point is, it's like, yeah, it was for the Superman and Lois show, but I'm like, A, they don't play that big of a role, and B, it's not the real world. But it's like, I get the idea that they're like, because the Kents have been white for so long in media that, but actually, you know what? I'm not even going to try and explain it because it really makes no sense when you really come down to it. You are right, Britt. I'll give you that.
Funnily enough, in one of the newer coming of age or grade school graphic novels, I think it's Clark and Lex. The Kents are black.
All right.
And it is drawn by a black artist, and his wife, she actually drew Little Diana. And of course they put them together, which I would not mind that Clark meeting that young Diana. That would be such a cute little crossover. But
so much fun.
just to have that to show, you know, Clark is a child of adoption. But again, Superman and Wonder Woman are supposed to be these multicultural, or embraced characters. They are supposed to represent so much, but it seems like they have to be confined to this certain look. And no, that just shouldn't be.
Again, multiverse. Also, Britt, so you know, it's the perfect example of Marvel doing a race bend like thing and it blowing up in their face.
Mm-mm.
Have I ever told you? And as soon as I say these words, the audience is gonna gasp. It's gonna know what I'm talking about. You ever hear of that comic book that came out a while ago? That's What If Miles Morales Was Thor?
Oh, I've seen panels of that. That was ridiculous.
Written by a non-black guy, first off, who called the audience racist for saying, "The hell is this?" But for those of you that don't know, so apparently, if Miles Morales is Thor, all of a sudden Asgard becomes like the most stereotypical ghetto place, shoes hanging on of power lines by the shoestrings. This is a real thing. He summons Mjolnir and he goes, "It's hammer time." Mjolnir the hammer has like a graffiti on it. He's wearing a hoodie with like Jordans, and then his like so one of the things that Thor says is Odin's beard. So in this comic, he says, "By Odin's fade." I'm like, did you really? The backlash on this was biblical, Britt. Biblical. It's almost as much as the snowflake in Safe Space backlash. And again, the writer, who's not a black guy, first off, was calling the audience racist and problematic for complaining about it. Wait, not a black guy writing the story, by the way. At least I hope. I don't think it was a black guy. Hang on. I'm going to look this up. What if Miles Morales was Thor? That's why, Britt, I always bring up. If you ever think DC is a problem, Marvel is infinitely worse. Okay, so he did eventually apologize, but okay, he was Jewish and Mexican. Oh God! I'm like, and you could have just done it where like he was regular Thor, not turn him into ghetto Thor.
Ghetto Thor.
That's what it was, Britt.
I mean, it definitely felt like he probably came across Trill League or something and was like, "I'm going to do that for Marvel."
But I'm like, I'm going to make it official Marvel, and I'm like, what the heck? The other ones were like fine. It's like it's basically What If Miles Morales was. Oh, okay. You sent me the picture. I hear my love scream. Yeah, I see that. Thank you, Britt. I'm gonna save that. But anyway, that's what that's why I always say Marvel takes DC's mistakes and amplifies them. Anyway, so let's talk about Calvin and Val-Zod. And with Val-Zod actually what would have been in my mind the ideal choice for the Ta-Nehisi Coates' Superman movie, obviously written by not Ta-Nehisi Coates, because his whole thing is like he's afraid to use his powers, he's afraid about what makes him unique, and you can use that in the movie that like he's obvious if it's taking place in the civil rights era, obviously he's being discriminated against, and you could have it with the whole time he doesn't feel like it's safe to use what makes him unique. A threat comes, whether or not that be Brainiac or something like that everyone tries to fight, but he can't. And then it's like, yeah, there's still going to be racism, obviously, at the end of this movie because that doesn't go away. But it's like he becomes more confident in his own skin. You can use him being Superman as like essentially like an analogy or like another way of showing being proud of being black, essentially.
Exactly.
So it's like there's a way to do this. But anyway, let me ask you this, Britt. Which of the two Superman we've talked about do you prefer?
Calvin.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
The reason why is because Calvin has more story in regards to his role, to be that leader of, as you know, we talked about earlier, not only his Earth, but his nation of his Earth as president, but also the leader of the multiverse, as the lead protector. So he has just more of a foundation and a more important role. I think that Val-Zod, he is still kind of like a Superman in training, and the last story that Val-Zod was in, it was more so of him. It was very tone deaf, and I'm not sure why DC published this or the writer himself to even think of this. I actually have to look up who wrote that, but he was more concerned on being in a relationship with Power Girl, and
I think it
kind
was
of
Tom
like,
Taylor.
and well, no, it was for the Black History Month
Oh, okay.
special, but like in a sense it was in a way to say if you don't like agree with interracial relationships, then you're a bad person or something like that. And it was kind of like, okay, yes, there um the way it was written though, it wasn't written in that sense of respectful way of interracial relationships as well as how to um explore that topic, and just that sort of thing. He's just not that type of character as of now to have a lot of depth. It's more so about his relationship.
I see. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that one because I also find the Superman being the president of the United States just fascinating. That like that has got to be, and I think it's like the way that like he keeps his secret is like he has like a robot that like that like takes his place or something like that. But the point is, it's actually very well done the way that they like make this actually work really well. And plus, again, if you wanted to go with Calvin for the movie, you could make it where like yeah. So what you could do, to clear from my previous idea, is you make it where like the most of the movie is spent in the 60s era, like civil rights era America, but then like it jumps ahead, like let's say to like a time where they'll be more open to this idea and he's being sworn in as the president.
Right.
So you could still like do that and then culminate in that, because I think him starting off like that and then culminating, and then his acceptance speech is about coming together and basically doing the speech that every Superman should give, but for some reason DC won't let them because they're more concerned with him dating Lois Lane. Anyway,
Right. So the
yeah.
writer of that Earth 2 story was John Ridley.
Oh, that's the one that had Superman get ass raped in prison. Yes, that's what he did.
Forward.
Yeah, he's the one that came onto Batman. So he was the one that wrote the Future State Batman story where so they wanted to have a black Batman, but instead of using the one that was already created, they basically made up one that was kind of like mentioned at one point, but not. That's where Jace Fox comes from. Oh, yeah. Why did you remind me, says Cameron? I'm sorry. Blame Britt. She's the one that said his name. But so what Ridley wanted to do, he was trying to do a story where Clark is like sent to like investigate war crimes, but he's captured. And apparently, I forget exactly what happened, but the implication. So he's being like tortured by like the general that runs this small like a country, and they say they tortured me, they did other things to me, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? And then when Ridley wrote another story later for that same like anthology, he referenced that.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I love that long silence after I explained what Ridley did. Yeah, so that's why I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Bad writing. I wonder who that reminds me of. But anyway, so the shelving thing. Shelving this, I'm like, honestly, what I would have done. See, here's the thing, Britt. The way Hollywood works, the thing about this like project, it would have gone through if it was farther along. But remember, all we ever heard about this Superman movie was that Ta-Nehisi Coates was writing it. We never saw anything else. Plus, here's the other part about this, Britt. Like I mentioned before, Warner Brothers made this multi-million-dollar deal with J.J. Abrams for him to produce content for them, and he never produced a single piece of content for Warner Brothers. In fact, he took the money and made stuff with other studios. So when Zaslav came on, he was like, why am I see? He completely dissolved all relationships they had with JJ. So if you want to blame anyone for this movie being shelved, blame JJ Abrams for not following through on a deal.
Yeah, that was pretty shady. I mean, to take millions of dollars and do, other projects, I don't know. That was very much grounds to be sued for. I don't know why WB didn't sue him.
They should have, but the point is that's the major reason why. I think the wokeness thing was just that the outward reason. I'm pretty sure when Zaslav came in, he was like, "Oh, screw you, JJ."
Well, I mean, you could have been honest and said "screw you, JJ" instead of "it's too woke." Like,
But
that's
I think
worse.
the reason why they didn't want to do that is because they didn't want, because WB is very, I mean, the entertainment industry is very hesitant to attack other creatives. But yes, to your point, I would have just bitten the bullet because you would be 100% in the right if you did that.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, I hear you. It's like this way. WB is still like to a certain degree wrong in this situation. I'm not taking their side, but I was like, it was a little more complicated than that. But yeah, it's like just using the word wokeness. I think that was also because of how like charged that term has become. That was like the best way for WB to say, we're canceling this movie. Don't ask any questions about it. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So then we get to Michael B. Jordan, who, by the way, again, he's one of those actors that, I mean, the only time he's ever been involved in race bending, not his fault, by the way, is when he was in Britt, did you ever see the Fantastic Four movie he was in?
Never. And I don't think I want to.
Good. So it's the dumbest movie in the world, but the reason why he was cast as Johnny Storm. So what they had to do is they had to make up a because obviously Sue Storm is white in that movie. So to explain why she could have a black brother, they explained that Sue was adopted. So that's the way they tried to explain that. But the reason why Michael B. Jordan was cast is because the director had previously done. Have you ever heard of the movie Chronicle?
Yes.
So the director of that did this Fantastic Four movie, and he really wanted to work with Michael B. Jordan again. So in a lot of ways he forced the studio to go with Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch.
I mean,
he could still do the role and stuff, but it's it's kind of a shady thing to do. However, my point being, that's the only time where he's been involved in a race band of a character, but it's not his fault. So that's why I'm he's the type of guy, because he's an obvious fan, because he did an interview where he went manga shopping. The dude is a freaking nerd. So it's of course he would go, why would I want to do a race band of Clark Kent when I could just be Val Zod or Calvin? That makes no sense.
exactly. I mean, he, just like Henry, he had respect for the characters in the story, and Michael, B. Jordan does too. And you need more actors like that, they actually care for the characters.
But the reason why you don't have that, Britt, is because too many actors nowadays either are not comic book fans, or they see those movies as just stepping stones to kickstart their career or give their career a boost. The majority of them are not fans. Let's say that Henry or Michael is, or even really David Cornsweet, I think is a Superman fan. Granted, he's a fan of a very specific Superman, but it's that's my point. It's some of the guys that have been good Supermen are fans of the character and understand the character.
Right. Well, yeah, David does understand Superman. I think that he has a in-depth, understanding, but he also has a superficial understanding, just as James Gunn. So, I think it it just all depends, on what iteration they might go for more. But honestly, I would align more with actors that care for the character, like uh, Jordan and Cavill.
Exactly. So then you get to to the crossover story. Hell, by the way, can I say I'm sorry for using that Jeff Spokes image, because Jeff Spokes also colored this issue. So the problem with that, why does Nubia look gray?
And Bia, it's
And
kind of
Bia,
like,
yeah.
why?
I'm what? They've never. I don't understand that. But anyway, Britt, explain the story.
Okay. So with this story, yeah, we're going to have a crossover because with going over the movie, and again this whole discourse of DC doesn't have any, interest in black characters or black stories. Yeah, why not make our own crossover? And of course, we always have to have a crossover in some way with our episodes. So with this Anubia, she is a combination of Prime Earth and Earth 23. So she is Wonder Woman and the Queen of the Amazons. Being that this is Earth 23, of course, Diana and Clark do not exist. You have Calvin and Nubia. Um, uh, Nubia, she's very much in a, she's torn, with her role and trying to help the outside world, man's world. Which she believes that, Themyscira can be an aspect, they can have allies, they can help, but can man's world, listen and actually take heed to what they're trying to say? It's not so much as taking authority or anything like that. It's just trying to get the world, to be peaceful. Pretty much like how Diana's mission is, that's the same as any Amazon would have that same mission.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so she does have a struggle, her fear that maybe she would come off as a little bit hard, um, that somebody would think that she's authoritative and things like that. So she's trying to balance that diplomatic compassion with that stern warrior side, to basically reach her goal. And Calvin, as the president, he has a lot going on, you know, with the political scandals and with, all of these different people in your ear, how you are supposed to present yourself as the president, how you're supposed you being basically a people's person and also a person of the media. You have to be on your P's and Q's, and that's something that he struggles with. He's
Exactly.
trying to um, have this system where it is the people first, but then you also have a lot of the political leaders who think of themselves, who are selfish. So he has to work within those, pressures.
Exactly. So then we get to, and by a great title, Power and Principle.
So the core premise of this is it's structured as a film or a maxi series, whichever way you want to go. And it's grounded in social realism and but has a mythic scope. So of course it has that social and political drive being of who Nubia and Calvin is, but the mythic and fantastical part of being Superman and Wonder Woman. So when the so globally, um, you have where these corporations basically how the real world is turning upside down now. You
Mhm.
have corporations with high prices, you have resources becoming scarce, you have resources becoming tainted, um, you know, things like that that's going on. So a lot of people are in a panic. Um, you Technology is going haywire. It's just a mess. So Nubia, she feels like, you know, you have to really take action in a stern type way to get control of this quickly. But Calvin is he's trying to find um, a quieter way to do things because he doesn't want to cause any more panic. And this also comes from, I would say, the conflict of Kingdom Come Superman and Wonder Woman, within that sort of line.
Mhm.
Um, so you have Calvin and Nubia, they have this sort of um, tension between them that I will um, explain a little bit later. But yeah, it's basically Calvin and Nubia, or Calvin versus Nubia, and then is Calvin versus the rest of the officials, and then Nubia basically versus the entirety of the world. So yeah, they are very much divided, but in the end, or within the story, is how they come together and meet each other halfway through.
Yeah, exactly. So thematic core.
So again, it's about the burden of Black leadership because, of course, as in realistic, Obama, was pressured as a Black leader, and you do have that racial divide. You have those racial concerns, so that is something that will be implemented in the story. Um, it's impossible to please everyone. You know, when you have that much power, it's not easy. There's no balance in between. You are frustrated. That's honestly why so many presidents, and that's just in general, look gray and old by the time their first year ends. So it's very much an emotional toll on everyone involved. And then you have the economic exploitation and you have the crime and injustice. And you just, at the end of it all, you just hope that things can get better.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, then you get to emotional foundation.
So from the beginning, you see that Nubia and Calvin does have history between each other. Again, this Nubia is a mix of Prime and Earth 23. I guess it was implied that Earth 23, Nubia and Calvin did have something together, so that's what I went with. And then, but the Prime Earth influence for Nubia is her being Queen of the Amazons. So it's not anything truly explicit. It's not them actually labeled together, and they're not really together. It's just very much playing on the ambiguous mindset of everything. So they stand side by side during crisis, crisis before. They have, done things together. So the people in their world and the reader or the moviegoer or whatever, um, you do have that question: Are they together? Were they together? Or could they end up together? Either way. And but within this whole thing, you do have that search tension that makes you ask these questions repeatedly.
So what you're telling me, Britt, is so if you're talking about like ambiguity, is it I assure you Clark knows a thing or two about getting his hands dirty?
Exactly.
I had to. I had to. So it would be more of I assure you Calvin knows a thing or two about getting his hands dirty.
Yes.
And you could have her like Prime Batman's there and he sees this and he goes, it's in every.
Exactly.
That would be hilarious. That'd be hilarious. And then Hal Jordan is like, man, Clark's got game on every Earth. How is this possible?
Hilarious.
Anyway, anyway, Act One, familiar distance.
Okay. So again, we start off with a whistleblower who reveals Helios Dynamics. It is a corporation, climate engineering corporation that has triggered artificial droughts to manipulate food markets, forcing migrations and um, water prevention, um, access to vulnerable nations. So basically, cutting off water supply to um, worlds that actually need it, and that goes within the water crisis in some of the states. So Nubia, she requests a private audience um, with Calvin before she addresses the UN, and basically she wants to let it be known. At least she's going to him and let it be known what she's going to say. And she's not looking for approval. She's just like, I'm going to say this, and you're just going to, you know, let me have this. Even if they don't agree, it's just something that she has to do as the queen and as someone who wants to protect the nation. Um, so they don't meet in the Oval Office, though. They do meet privately on the White House balcony, and and their first exchange is not so much as is not going straight forward into her addressing the UN or anything like that. It's them having that private personal moment. So they do comfort each other in a very, at first, awkward and distant way, but they know each other. Um, so when she is addressing the UN, he's there and he gives her like these he's there for private support, or quiet support, and um, he's watching her and he knows her. So again, it's very much playing on the usual Superman and Wonder Woman dynamic. She leaves and they talk with their eyes, so you build up that sort of tension that's there. Um, and also Calvin, he from her, he has that motivation to speak up, and he does condemn Helios and urges an investigate, a public investigation. Um, and then privately, intelligence confirmed that Helios funds several powerful senators and global leaders. So it is very much an inside scandal that's going on, and Calvin is very much stuck because he didn't know that things were happening behind his back.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to Act Two, ideological divide.
So here, Nubia, she is proposing that the Amazons now lead an intervention uh, to dismantle Helios facilities and release classified documents proving the government basically was um, had ties with this. And Calvin is very much um, he opposes this because even though he had nothing to do with it, it still kind of reflects his leadership because it was done behind his back. So how can he let this slip through? And what does that mean for him as a leader? So they
I
have
see.
this conversation, and it's very much the emotional heart of the story. Um, and this is their back and forth of she's she's telling him that he's not to protect, these people, regardless of you thinking that these are supposed to be your allies or that is what you're supposed to do. You are supposed to be upfront and true to the people. That is why they elected you. And Calvin is basically saying that, okay, yeah, but I, you know, that is going to still reflect me. And I have to find a solution because if he is to say this out loud, the people are still going to panic either way. Um, so she's trying to compromise, but you know, however the fallout may be, and he's trying to prevent any fallout and trying to do this in a strategic kind of way. Um, Nubia, the one thing in this story is that she doesn't want any innocents to be hurt with this. However, it is that possibility, and in a sense, she's kind of willing for that to be a possibility in order to save, billions. So there is sort of weight to that. That you know you can't save everyone, and there will be sacrifices. But Calvin is like, no, there won't be any sacrifices at all.
Exactly. So then you go to Act Three, breaking point.
So Helios retaliates. So they are basically going through their whole thing, which is taking away all the resources. They are taking away. It's catastrophic. The stock market. Everything is crashing. The water supply is completely drying up. Everything is just gone. Um, and to where you also have floods are happening, just things. It's not even natural disasters. They're very much uh, government controlled. And that is something too, a conspiracy that's happening in the real world where you feel like if it's raining too heavily, is it something controlling the weather?
Yeah.
How we've had snow and then it's hot, that sort of thing. So that plays within the story too. So
If you've ever seen the movie Geostorm, that's basically the premise, that we invent satellites that can control the weather to like stop natural disasters, but someone takes control of it and starts offing countries.
yes, that's basically what this is. Yeah, yeah.
All right, sweet.
Um,
Hmm.
so within that, so now you have Superman and Wonder Woman. We see them in costume and they're trying to help people get to safety, but they also have a fight. This is where they basically clash emotionally and physically. Um, they it's not trying to, you know, who's the better leader or anything like that. And after a while, it's kind of like they know each other so well that it's frustrating to see themselves on the opposite side of trying to get to the same goal or to, same resolution in a sense. So they are midair. Um, he is going after the Amazons trying to stop them. And she's hurt by this to see that he is not trying to understand what she's trying to do. And he's hurt because she isn't seeing what he's trying to do. So it's very much a lot of miscommunication between the two. Um, but again, they have this sort of um, it's just going on how we saw in even Sue's run. Clark and Diana have these different perspectives, but in the end, it does come together.
Yeah, because after all, Britt, as we certainly know, no drama, no story. I'm sorry, I had to. I
Yeah,
had to.
but
I
we do
had
it.
to.
But we do
But
it the right
you're
way.
doing it organically.
Exactly, we do it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get Act 4.
So Act 4, so the whistleblower is captured. Calvin realized Helios intends to blame everything on the mascara, that they are at Nubia. So he wants to, of course, protect Nubia and the Amazon, and he makes the ultimate choice, which is overriding his executive privilege, and he publicly exposes, just as Nubia said before, the classified documents, basically tying the global powers to Helios. And he exposes all of the leaders and senators and everything, you know. And it may cost him the presidency, but he doesn't care because he wants to protect Nubia and the Amazons. Um, he doesn't tell Nubia about this. He just does it, kind of a rash, a rash decision, but it was basically his heart, making this decision than his mind. So when she learns what he'd done, she is relieved, but at the same time, she is kind of like, oh my God, what did you do? You sacrificed who you are for me and my people. She's grateful, but at the same time, it's pretty much not the sacrifice that she was intending. Um, but with her, she that gives her the opportunity to, with the Amazon scientists, destabilize the Helios project and
Interesting.
reverse everything that they've done.
Yeah. So then you get to the final movement, A World Changed.
So Calvin has exposed everyone, every crooked person, all the scandals, and the markets. It's not. It's the fallouts are as expected, you know. But actually, it quickly turns around. Everyone sees that um, the fact that Calvin was honest, and it's very much a gratefulness to Nubia. And yeah, she is, of course, blessed by um, Athena, so she is of the wise. So, with him now being honest, he does still have the um, the people's trust, and he does address. Calvin does address the nation in the Oval Office, and he basically tells that truth is not instability. That is the power, and power does not fear accountability. It's basically you have to, if you have this power, you can't abuse it, and you have to have the people to trust you. You have to have that solid trust in order for the people to go forward and for it to be that togetherness where no matter the crisis, we can all get over it
Yeah,
and
exactly.
overcome it.
Exactly.
So he doesn't have any type of impeachment or anything like that. He does have that support, and and a lot of of course, the corrupt officials resign. A lot of national leaders, they come up with reforms and everything like that. So yeah, it's a lot of things that change. It's all about change. Nubia, she is able to get the people to see more of the Amazons in their ways in order to help. So a lot of political public shifts. Themyscira isn't the public or Manswell isn't afraid of Themyscira. Now they want the help.
I like that. So then you get to Calvin and Nubia united, not divided.
So their reunion is very much that shift from the high action political thriller type to now this soft um, romantic type feel, very emotionally heavy. That they end up able to actually talk. And so he visits the mascara, and they have this moment where they both end up saying that you were right, I was right, we both were right, but we have to communicate better, and we are going to disagree on things, but at the same time, we're just trying to reach the same thing of protecting the world that we love. And they do choose these different perspectives, and that's what makes it work. Um, and there is this tension between them, and it lingers. They are trying to restrain, basically, from um, giving into their deep feelings because they put, their duty first. So later, it is where they are alone on the mascara on the balcony or something like that, and he's standing behind her or beside her, and they have another intimate moment where their hands touch, and they want to kiss, but they don't. Calvin is very much, it's kind of like he wants to, but the fact that he wants to makes him not kiss her. But just having that moment together and that slight hand touch, gives you all that you need to know that they will stand side by side together. So the final image or scene of the movie or whichever is you see their silhouettes as the sun, um, I guess the sunset or the sunrise, and these two figures that are so strong, and they represent so much of the world.
Ah, dope. Then we get to the epilogue.
So you have this little scene where the Helios executives are on trial. Um, the uh, the global climate stabilization initiative, all of that is overseen by the Amazon scientists and appointed trusted scientists of man's world. You have Calvin. He has approval ratings, has risen. You know, he's not. He is the man of the people. He is the people's president. Nubia, she is invited to address global leaders annually. So she is that um, she's the people's princess or the people's queen.
People's queen. I like that a lot. That's really
Um,
good.
Also, young girls, they are very much inspired by her. So they were like Amazonian bracelets, bracers, gauntlets, you know, to show that they want to be uh, queens and Amazons when they grow up or, things like that. So it's very, a very happy ending. And then at the very, very end, you see a statue in Metropolis or Washington or whichever, um, of Calvin and Nubia standing side by side.
I like that. She was really good. And now I'm thinking about it. I should have used the image of Superman, Wonder Woman 12 of them standing in the sun. Imagine that image. Okay, just pretend I did.
Okay, so that's basically the image that the end of the story itself, before the epilogue. Yeah, that's the image. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And by the way, another story where a portal didn't have to open. Well, because we were already
Right.
on this, so that kind of works there. But yeah, great story as usual, Britt. Great job. It's kind of cool seeing a Superman and Wonder Woman story, but it's not Clark and Diana.
Right. I mean, it really.
To be clear, you could still tell pretty much that same story with Clark and Diana.
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's not okay. So they're not interchangeable in that sense, but
Yeah.
it's very much a universal concept because the the connection and who they are is, as I said, is universal. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
you have that base, but what makes it unique is their individual character, like the fact that it's Calvin and Nubia. So you do have to have those little unique traits there to make it different.
Exactly. So, Britt, tell me about Green Lantern 17.
Okay, so we're finally out of the
Absolute power.
uh, absolute power storyline, which is kind of like that took way too long. Um, but you have where Kyle Rayner is pretty much the main protagonist of this issue, which again, the art and the action is so just in your face with all the lights. Like
Mhm.
this is very much if you've seen a house with all the Christmas lights, like a big ass
Yeah,
house,
it
a
very
big
much glows,
mansion.
right? Whoever is coloring these issues is like, oh god.
This is very much what this issue was. This was a lot of lights. Um,
Which, when you think about it, it makes sense because for Green Lantern, the coloring has to be on point.
yes. So it's very chaotic, but is very large in the stakes, visually is beautiful. It's a lot of character moments, but every character is able to shine, and even if it's a lot of plot developments, and honestly, I'm guessing that this plot, you know, um, with this overdrive basically of everything is because of how it was stagnant in a sense with absolute power. But it does feel a little overwhelming because you're trying to have this rush you know, of all its development. But it still feels like, okay, the story is continuing on and going.
And then Maroon Sheep says Super Wonder Supremacy. Hell yeah. Why won't DC bring Super Wonder back? I boycott all our comics until it returns. Well, you're gonna be waiting a long time, brother. You've been waiting a long old time. But yeah, this issue I think is amazing. Zermanico is an incredible artist, but a lot of this. So this is going to be building toward a Green Lantern event, like just a book that just involves this and the Green Lantern. I think is Core starting around this time. I can't remember, but the point is, this is going to be leaning toward a Green Lantern exclusive event, so you're not going to have to worry about like absolute power or anything like that. And this is where some more of the crazy like emotional spectrum stuff is developed. I also like seeing and then Maroon Sheepy says my only hope is Injustice 3. Bro, if you hope for good Super Wonder content, Injustice is the opposite of what we want.
Exactly.
that's like saying I want to punch in the face because I want to be a wrestler. But anyway, but yeah, I do like how Kyle gets like a lot of development, including him being a White Lantern of life again, which I really dig with that. I also like they're running from, yes, exactly, NJ, down with Injustice. So they're running from Mogo, and Mogo's development comes to a head a while back, and even talked about this a little bit when we did our Jessica Cruz episode. But I really, really, really dig how this issue has stakes, and it really like develops a lot of like the Green Lantern lore. Because what's happening around this time period, Britt, is so the United Planets, essentially the Galactic UN, essentially started in BMB's Superman run, took over, and spoiler alert, is corrupt as hell. And they created their own Green Lanterns, which are more like a green, but their Green Lanterns, the United Planet Lanterns, can switch emotional spectrums at will. Well, obviously our guys can't. So, and they've taken complete control over Oa. That's why they're torturing Jessica Cruz. And it's what I really like about this is, but if Injustice does well, maybe it'll show there's no. You do not want them taking Injustice as the example. Do not expel that. But
absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly. But what they're showing here is that what I like about this is that Adams, basically, if I could summarize this arc so far that's starting, this is the underground war part of Green Lantern, where it feels like one of those guerrilla warfare / insurgent like war stories that you hear, and Adams does a absolutely fantastic job doing those.
Yes.
So Bomb Queen 17 was interesting. I like how it's a realistic portrayal of what would happen if Superman fought Bomb Queen, and I'm like, okay, there you go. He crushes her like bomb things.
Superman or Homelander?
A little bit of both, honestly, because there's something about White Knight just doesn't run me correctly. But I love where the whole city has rocket launchers that are fired when she spanks herself, and one of the rockets. So you know how like those Burger King places have those clown mascots? One of the missiles comes out of the crotch of one of those clown statues. I'm like, God damn it, this is hilarious. And the fact that it's set up that the missiles are launched by her slapping her own ass, I'm like, oh God, that could only happen in this book. But it's a realistic like portrayal of if a Superman character fought someone like Bomb Queen. And honestly, I definitely liked it, and there was a lot of fun to have with this. Less on the mature side, which again I appreciated, but I also love how like in the mayor's office they're replastering the wall from the last time she burst through the wall, and then she burst through that wall again and goes, "Mayor, we have a problem." And I'm sure the dude is like, God damn it.
Right.
That is just, that's the funny thing about this series is, and this is one of the things I like about it, it doesn't overuse the joke, which too many books do, whether or not that's big two or not. But this one knows when to give a joke a chance to breathe before you use it again. but I give this issue a 7 out of 10. So now we're going to talk about our last book to review. We are talking about Wonder Woman 30 by Stephanie Williams. It concludes her interlude and it sets up the Wonder War. Yes, yuck, I know. So here's what I liked about the book. Obviously, Jeff Spokes' coloring is not one of them, but first, let me bring this up. What I liked about this series is I like the Wonder Girls and Nubia and Bia and all those characters. I liked hearing their insecurities, and like Yara's thing is that she doesn't belong, and Donna's thing is that sometimes she doesn't feel like a true Amazon because they're doing the whole like she was saving the fire, and then it's like Cassie fears her own power because she's the daughter of Zeus. So I really like that development a little bit. I also like the idea of those like shadow versions of the Wonder Girls. The other thing that I like seeing new 52 Strife. That was pretty dope. The other thing that I really like, she doesn't have the stupid braid anymore that she never should have had at all. But look, she actually has normal hair again. And okay, Britt, ignore for a second your issues with this issue, pun intended. How great did it feel to actually hear Diana talk like a human being?
I mean, it was a consolation prize, I guess.
Now, the part that hurts this issue is the fact that it's hampered by setting up Tom King's Wonder Woman stories, but the reason why I don't hold that so much against it is because she does. First off, I've read Stephanie's other Wonder Woman stuff, so it's really good. So I know she's capable of this. The other thing is that she doesn't have a choice on what she does with this. It's like she's very limited. She can't ignore everything King is doing. Like, let me put it this way, Britt. If this were the ending, if this were the ending 2 issues of the entire era, and then it was still hampered by this, I would be a little bit less forgiving. But the fact that it has to set up the arc with Tom King, so it's not like they can just ignore it. And the thing is, it's like, so I understand that the type of thing. I feel like people expected her to just like ignore everything King was doing, but she can't per se. What do you think?
I mean, I get that. It's just Strife was still kind of not Strife or Eris, she felt a little, I don't know. It was very goofy like a little bit, and
Wasn't she
then to say
kind of goofy in the Sewell run though?
no, she was, but in that very bitchy type manner, that I'm really going to screw up your relationship. She wanted to screw over Diana for her own laughs. This wasn't really a laughing type thing. This was just for the plot of where it doesn't feel genuine because you have Trinity, and she's supposed to care about Trinity. First of all, we have not really seen the gods, and the way that the gods are depicted here.
Oh, we've
Strife,
seen the gods. Remember, she took Batman to Olympus.
well, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Actually,
Everyone did.
I mean, even DC, because apparently it's not even in the trade.
Yeah, that was
Um,
so funny. I'm like, there's no way they excluded that from the trade. Wait a minute here.
yeah, but her design does not match though the gods now. So her inclusion doesn't seem it just doesn't seem like it fits. Um and then trying to glaze Trinity Lizzie as like
Mm-hmm.
this, yes, babies are innocent, whatever, but this is a Chucky baby. This is an evil little Annabelle doll, little demon spawn or whatever. For her to even have some type of power in that sense to, hurt or whatever strife, it it doesn't seem right. It really doesn't.
The fact that
Um,
she just basically force pushes Strife away. Britt, you know what it reminds me of? Remember in the ninth Star Wars movie when Rey goes, "I am all the Jedi," and then she kills Palpatine? That's what this reminded me of.
right. And you also have where you have this random bottle that
Hmm.
Trinity has, and it's kind of like, where the hell did you get a baby bottle from? Because the only baby that has been on the island is Diana, and I
The only baby. Oh,
I
yeah,
could
yeah,
doubt
yeah.
I doubt well, you can say she is an adult baby too because she's a crybaby. But
Maybe like Donna brought it, or like one of the Wonder Girls brought it because they knew
see,
Diana was coming back.
that's the thing. You have to do too much of the maybes and all of that head canoning within this whole run, and it's stupid. But
True.
yeah, just the whole thing, and you're finally seeing the Amazons together, but you're not really seeing the Amazons together because
True.
why is it that you have a big ass island and it's only like just those six Amazons. You don't see a full community of Amazons at all. Um, and the fact that it's also written to say that Diana is now feels human or as human as she can be because of Lizzie and Steve, that's bullshit too.
Hmm.
Because first of all, Diana is human. Regardless of the
Yep.
demigod stuff, do people not understand that the demi in demigod or demigoddess, demi means half. So she
Well,
is still
again, no
human.
one really understands words on Twitter. Also, Britt, remember, if we're going off of the clay origin, she's more human than she is literally an Earth woman. Literally.
Exactly. Diana is literally the purest of human form. Yes.
So I'm just like, what, what the hell are you guys doing? By the way, Maroon asked, what are the odds that the Wonder Woman would be adopting off of this one? Very low. I highly doubt that they would adapt his run as a movie. I highly doubt that.
Right. No, no, definitely not.
Yeah, I would say in terms of percentage that could happen, I would say 5% that happens. There's 5%. There's a 95% chance it will not happen because A, they know the run sucks and they're not going to try it, and B, it's like then it just becomes it's just the Tom King cinematic universe. It's Tom King and James Gunn. Why are you adapting everything? Only those people. So it doesn't it doesn't really make sense if you really want to go in that direction. But it's like the thing about once again, by the way, in the chat, you guys give me your thoughts on Wonder Woman 30 because yeah, it's like it was two issues. I enjoyed it for the most part because I was like, okay, this is pretty enjoyable. There's a lot of like fun stuff that they're doing with this series. At the very least, I like seeing Wonder Woman's lore and the Wonder Girls actually used properly, and Yara not being the cursing stereotype. Because I got news for you, the prickly Latina stereotype that Tom King tries to push, it's vaguely racist. But Britt, at least didn't it feel great to not have Yara be cursing like a sailor constantly? Because isn't it kind of racist for King to make the Latina Wonder Girl the one that's the most like prickly?
Well, yeah, of course. And honestly, that just shows how out of touch Tom King is. Even with his characterization for Lizzie, for him to think that, oh, all teenage girls have bitchy, bratty attitude. You know, um, how he described all of the Wonder Girls. You know, Cassie is to be the American Wonder Girl. Donna is, well, he used the mirror origin,
Hmm.
um, but I guess the fire origin honestly does not make sense at all, uh, age-wise for Diana and Donna, because Donna is supposed to be like 32 or something, um, and Diana is supposed to be 35. So how does the fire origin work?
That is true. The only way I really know that the Fire Origin is the canon one, because remember Phil Jimenez did that.
Well, yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think they referenced it in New History. So I guess it's like, yeah, it's odd, but it's like it's kind of the way it's got to be.
and you know, given that if she is to have the fire origin or something, it's still, you know, within that DC is trying to have post-crisis. And it just makes it even weirder to for King's whole run to exist, for just rebirth period to exist, and new history just doesn't make sense at all to post crisis. You know, honestly, you try to erase New 52, but it, it trying to erase it has done more harm than good.
Well, yeah, remember when they tried to in Rebirth, Titans Rebirth, explain the Donna origin, but what they did is they made it so the Fire origin was memories implanted by Diana. So because she felt that like that like Donna being the like made from the clay of Hippolyta would be too much for her to handle.
And that's pretty much projection on Diana, because wasn't, you know, false memories implanted into her.
Yeah, exactly. It's so dumb. But anyway, so those are our reviews. Pretty solid books. But so Britt, by the way, and NJ says, and why Philippus is referring to Hippolyta past tense like was and had. She is still alive, only reached godhood. She can still come and live on Themyscira if she wants. I don't. The way I would explain that is maybe
Plot contrivances.
plot contrivances, yeah, and that maybe somehow Philippus doesn't know that she's a goddess, but how could she not know? And the other Wonder Girls wouldn't have told her. I don't know. It's strange, but it's one of those things that it's like, all right, fine. The grand scheme of things, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Britt, how do you rate this issue of Wonder Woman?
I'll give it a red apple.
You actually have to give it a number.
You want me to be mean.
Because I love you when you're mean.
Oh geez. I'll give it a 5.
Oh, jeez. My God.
I'll give it half, because half of it is okay because of Stephanie, and the other half is bullshit because it's with wrapped up in Tom King.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that. By Maroon says Cheeto was done terrible in this run. Okay, I got news for you. Every single character was done terribly in this run. That's why I secretly have a theory that Tom King secretly hates Wonder Woman. So he's trying to make everyone else hate Wonder Woman in her world. Or it's like the point I made in my absolute video that came out this past Wednesday was Absolute Wonder Woman, for all of its flaws, actually feels like the writer is proud of Wonder Woman, whereas Tom King's run just seems like he's ashamed of Wonder Woman. Essentially, he's ashamed of everything Wonder Woman like represents and such. That's
Because
kind of Yeah, go
He
ahead.
doesn't understand her. And honestly, like every writer before even him, Perez set a standard and no one could reach that standard. Even, Rucka is a fan fave, but honestly, you see more and more that people are kind of questioning even his run, you know. And
Especially
seeing
Rebirth.
how, yeah, and seeing how far away Diana is, or has become from Perez. Perez, is always talked about as that number one, or the go-to, the golden standard of her origin and who she's supposed to be, but yet they don't appreciate it and they don't honor it, so it feels like they are trying to rewrite it in a way, and that is what King has done with his run, is take elements from Perez run and just revamp it to his way of what he see fits, criticize his run or something. And that challenge, he definitely failed the challenge that he created himself and is like one-sided beef with Perez. But it's the fact that, you know, not only has he failed his own challenge, but he proved why Perez made the decisions that he made in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, again, if I were put in charge of Wonder Woman, the first thing I would do is like, we're going to go back to what made the Perez run so great. We're going to actually stick to it. And by the way, Maroon, no, Diana never like cheated with Bruce or anything like that. No, it was like she was used as a temptress, but Bruce still remained pure to Selena. But once again, it's like Tom King using Wonder Woman as a temptress.
Right.
I'm like, no, no. Anybody? Oh, you know when I realized Tom King was a weirdo in his Penguin run, where he basically had it like implied that Penguin, like Cobblepot, actually has sex with penguins.
Gross.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is the man that people hold up as like the next Alan Moore. I got news for you. Alan Moore does not want to be Alan Moore right now. Okay, so. Oh, and by the way, I never liked Rocca. Yeah, yeah. I like his pre-crisis one, his post-crisis one run more than Rebirth. But yeah, I agree with you. And then NJ has to go to bed. All right, have a good one, NJ. But yeah, I think it's a good place to leave it. So, Britt, what stories do you have to tease us with?
All right, so I've completed one of the, I think it's six of the Twitter thread uh, stories that I chose from. So yeah, one is done, which is an early Mother's Day story. The second one I am doing a little bit of edits with. I have two tonight chapters to review, and those will be posted, of course. Um, Jared, you get the exclusive, first look. Um, and then, of course, we have our Shelterverse and Odyssey to get back to. Those are, again, we have our, talks and with how we are playing, you know, not only just the chapters themselves, but also just the overall story and how we, you know, um, how we figure out these these certain scenes that we want within the chapter or within the story, and where can we place them. So it's some things that, even though I'm might be finished with a chapter, it's like, no, but I want this certain scene in the chapter, or I want this scene out to be in another chapter. So that's one of the things with Odyssey and Shelter that's, um that's kind of getting in the way of posting those, but yeah, it's still all worth it. And I also have Twitter threads that are coming up. The big Twitter thread that I have still working on is my massive review of the Perez run, but it also has the backup issue, um, or the back issue of interviewing Perez of what, drew him into wanting to write Wonder Woman, the basically the behind the scenes of how post-crisis Wonder Woman came about, and the decisions he made, especially with her relationship with Clark, the decision to make Steve an old man, and basically what he saved Wonder Woman from, because we were going to have a drastically different post-crisis Wonder Woman, and honestly he definitely saved her from a terrible direction.
And that has to be an episode of Super Wonder Legacy at one point talking about that article. But yeah, and Maroon says the thing was is people talk terribly on New 52 for fighting, but Rucka legit just makes her a murderer, turns her back to Steve. Rucka should never be recommended as the default. Yeah, he's not my favorite. I always say whenever people ask me for like recommendations on Wonder Woman runs, I always say just start at Perez and keep going. But it's like some people just have rose tinted glasses when it comes to certain writers.
Right.
But yeah, so stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. We will see you guys later. By the way, stop by tomorrow at 3:30 when on Amazon Answers, I will be talking about all my favorite Wonder Woman costumes and looks. Anyway, see you guys later. Bye-bye.